Penn State football, a tradition of excellence for over 130 years. Welcome to Nittany Nation Rewind. The tape says it all.
You really had to make a decision. Is Kerry Collins going to throw the ball all over us, or is Kajana Carter going to run the ball all over us?
We bring you the story of high-flying, hard-hitting, run-up-the-score offense that set college football scoreboards on fire.
The first time since 1968, a Big Ten champion will be sending an undefeated team to the Rose Bowl.
We get caught because we're playing a Pac-12 team that they said is not a powerhouse, a sexy name like UCLA or USC or something like that.
Unbeaten and uncrowned again.
Let's go to John Dockery with the national champion coach, Tom Osborne.
Nittany Nation Rewind starts now.
Hey, hi, hello. Welcome back to Nittany Nation Rewind. I'm Peter Terpstra, still standing on a box.
Two boxes, actually. And I'm Jack Washer. We have one heck of a show to bring you about one heck of a team that should have won it all.
But they didn't, and it was not their fault. We're talking about the 1994 Penn State football team. Do these names ring a bell? Kerry Collins, Kajana Carter, Bobby Ingram, Kyle Brady, and Keith Goone Conlon. If they don't, well, you're about to find out.
The 1994 Penn State team started off the season ranked number 9 in the country, and they beat the brakes off of Minnesota in the Twin Cities and hosted number 14 USC in Game 2, followed by Iowa, Rutgers, and Temple. None of these games were close. In fact, the team's first 5 games they won by an average of 35 points, setting up a game that will live on in the history books. Penn State's first test of the season, a top 5 matchup with Michigan at the Big House.
It's one of those running jokes amongst players who play there. It's not that loud. I mean, they call it the Big House, but it's not that loud.
After racing out to a 16-point lead, the Nittany Lions found themselves tied at 24 with the ball and 4:46 left in the game.
That was what you saw, the poise of Kerry Collins, taking the team down the field. You think about the play calling, getting the ball to your best player.
Here's Kerry Collins throwing. Ingram, touchdown, Penn State.
Still, Michigan had time for one final shot.
Pressure coming. Collins steps up, now throws, and it is intercepted by Penn State.
I just remember afterwards, it was like, just take that monkey off our back.
To go up in Michigan and win, that was an impressive win up there.
So the team's feeling good. They take over number 1 in the country after taking down Michigan, and then you had a game with number 21 Ohio State after a bye week, and talk about a blowout. Penn State took down the Buckeyes 63-14. That is still the largest margin of victory anytime Penn State has beaten Ohio State. And after all that, they dropped to number 2 in the country after Nebraska beat Colorado. Rankings are dumb. Moving on, things got really weird later in the season. Penn State had a trip to Illinois for a chance to wrap up a Big Ten title in a spot in the Rose Bowl, and, well, the fun started way before the game even kicked off.
We woke up with no electricity in our hotel. 0. We're up on the 20th floor. We all have to walk down 20 flights of stairs to go to our pregame meal.
It's not storming. It's not no serious weather. Now, how do they mysteriously, the whole hotel goes out and actually they know that's where we're staying at?
He would not let us go back to our rooms. He made the managers go to our rooms, grab up all of our stuff, pack it up, and then we went to I'm not lying to you, we went to a restaurant. We had pizza and hoagies. Was our pregame meal before the 1994 Illinois game. We go out to the field and we're getting ready to go. We're stretching and we're all burping hoagies. We're all burping onions, and it's like, you know, we're laughing, we're joking. It's like, and they came out and they stomped us.
So on a misty night in Champaign, Illinois took control.
We had a chip on our shoulder that game because that was Illinois. They were the #1 defense in the Big Ten, possibly in the country.
Penn State took a hit from the opposing offense too. Illinois jumped out to a 21-0 lead in just the first quarter.
Just start chopping wood and just, take it play by play, drive by drive.
In the second quarter, a drive started from the 1-yard line and finished with a 1-yard touchdown.
The number one defense in the country is across the line of scrimmage, and we're laughing. We're just, because we knew.
And with about 6 minutes left on the clock, you had what would be remembered as the drive. 14 plays, 96 yards, 5 minutes off the clock in the rain.
People joke with me now about the use of the fullback, but you go back and put that tape in and see what Brian Milne meant to the team that day.
Penn State picks up the win, 35-31, clinching a Big Ten title and a trip to the Rose Bowl.
Shout out to Neil Rodell. Fullbacks making a comeback.
Baby.
Coming up next, the granddaddy of them all might have been over on the very first play.
But would any of that matter? Penn State sees its national title dream snatched before even taking the field next.
You're watching Nittany Nation Rewind.
Welcome back to Nittany Nation Rewind. The pressure was on. Number 1 Nebraska and number 2 Penn State. They're pretty much mirror images of each other.
Both teams were winning game after game. Both teams stayed undefeated. But why couldn't both teams just get together and play each other?
Yeah,
right? That's the big question. Penn State took care of business to finish the regular season. The Nittany Lions had blowout wins over Northwestern and Michigan State to move to 11-0. The team knew what was next. You knew what was next. Everyone knew what was next.
For the first time since 1968, a Big Ten champion will be sending an undefeated team to the Rose Bowl. The Nittany Lions rolling the table, going a perfect 11-0. All they have to worry about now, the Ducks of Oregon on January 2nd, and of course everybody that cast a ballot in the final coaches and AP poll.
But first, January 1st. The night before taking the field in the Rose Bowl, Penn State watched the Orange Bowl between number 1 Nebraska and number 3 Miami. The two-quarterback system between Brooke Behringer and touchdown Tommy Frazier led the Huskers after trailing the entire game.
Schlesinger has another touchdown. Schlesinger broke free.
I have no ill will towards Nebraska. I mean, they did exactly what they had to do.
Nebraska pulled it off, an undefeated season, leaving Penn State left to sit and stew.
I don't know how many pieces of furniture got broken in that hotel, but a lot of them got busted up, and you could hear up and down the halls of chairs getting thrown against walls. What made us the most angry was when Bob Costas
on NBC.
Let's go to John Dockery with the national champion coach, Tom Osborne.
says, "Congratulations, Tom Osborne, on your first national title." And you're like,
I'm like, well, hold on, man. We playing tomorrow, man.
you didn't have a chance to play yet.
And a thought here about Joe Paterno and what must be going through his mind as he watches tonight's game unfold.
Got up and said, look, we can't control what the pollsters are going to do. We can't control what the voters. But if we don't win tomorrow, they'll have there's nothing to argue about.
So one day later, Penn State set foot on college football's grandest stage, the Rose Bowl in Pasadena.
They wanted to prove something. You know, they had been ranked number 2 for a while, and I think most people felt they could have beaten that Nebraska team.
And the Nittany Lions set the tone on their first offensive snap.
Bucky Greeley, and it was like, let's take this one to the house. I just said, I'll meet you there.
And breaks it. He's gone. Goodbye. It'll be touchdown, Penn State, first play of the ball game.
Kajana Carter put himself into Rose Bowl lore, going 83 yards, except it was anything but a perfect play.
If you can watch that play, none of us really blocked the right people. Thank God Kajana Carter ran a 4.2 540 and he broke one tackle, because we all look like geniuses, because I'm telling you, not one guy on the offensive line blocked the right person.
As Penn State wouldn't look back from there, rolling to a 38-20 victory, capping off a perfect season.
The Penn State Nittany Lions and untied, undefeated Penn State Nittany Lions.
And after all that, Penn State's undefeated season ends like this. The Nittany Lions finished number 2 in both the AP and coaches poll. Nebraska is named the national champion. 1994 was the school's last undefeated season, and it joins 12 other undefeated seasons, most recently 1968, 69, and 1973, where Penn State did not win the the national championship.
And they did it with one of the most impressive offenses in college football history. Kajana Carter was running the rock. Kerry Collins slinging it around to Kyle Brady and Bobby Ingram. When teams would stack the box with defenders, this team averaged 520 yards per game and nearly 48 points per game. Both of those set records at Penn State.
You know, they scored a bunch of points and won every game, and you had plenty of NFL talent on that team as well.
Seems to be a theme. Penn State sends people to the league, right? And we got to take some time to talk about that guy that went #1 overall in the 1995 NFL Draft. Kajana Carter had some impressive numbers in his final year at Penn State. He had 198 carries for 1,539 yards, 23 rushing touchdowns. Now, back then, Penn State offense didn't really throw the ball much to the running backs, so he didn't have much in the receiving game. Now, he finished #2 in the Heisman voting. Rashawn Salaam from Colorado won it and had one more touchdown on the year, about 500 more yards, but 100 more carries. Kajana was robbed.
Not the only thing that was robbed that year.
Yep, it's time for Where Are They Now? And Kajana is doing some pretty cool things. He's the CEO and founder of a company called BioGlobe. Now, it started as a sanitation supply company and then morphed into a branding and marketing company. Now, just like a touchdown run, Carter is making moves in the business world, too.
All right, now for quarterback Kerry Collins, who spent 17 seasons in the NFL with 5 different teams, and right now he has a home near Nashville, Tennessee, and a farm in North Carolina. He got into the music world, actually, and said he has co-written about 75 country music songs.
Now, for the big fella, Keith Goone Conlon, the former offensive lineman, is now on the radio. Now, the folks in State College probably hear him from his show. He co-hosts the Goone and Ironhead show every Tuesday and Thursday. He says he is a sports junkie, and now he has an easy way to get his fix. Coming up next.
You forgot about, he's also Casey Kansas' best friend.
He is. Coming up next, we take a trip to Baltimore to meet a former Penn State player who is making his best plays on a canvas and in the hearts of his hometown.
You're watching Nittany Nation Rewind.
Welcome back. Penn State has produced a long line of defensive studs. Now, Aaron Maben was no doubt one of them and had a bright NFL future ahead of him, too. But a different, perhaps more meaningful calling rerouted him shortly into his brief professional career. Our Casey Kantz traveled to Aaron's home in the city of Baltimore and joins us with more.
Anybody that knows me knows that, I just want to see, the city be a city that the world loves as much as I do.
Blessed with exceptional talent to play football, one thing about Aaron Maben is that he'll never forget where he came from.
I want people to know about all the amazing things that go on here. I want people to know about the amazing people that live here.
We met up with the former Nittany Lion and NFL defensive end in the city where he was born and raised, Baltimore City, Maryland. A city in which he returned to full-time after his football career ended, a career that was kick-started in Happy Valley.
It was far enough away where I wasn't just going to be coming home for any old reason, so you still had to be able to stand up on your own 2 feet and be a man and grow up, essentially.
And Aaron did just that. Heavily recruited, he picked Joe Paterno's Penn State Nittany Lions over more than 40 other college offers and quickly made a name for himself on the field, becoming an All-American and first-team All-Big Ten selection. Maben also excelled in the classroom.
As soon as I first got there, they made sure that they let me know, like, look, man, go to class. Joe's going to have people checking. And if you're not in the first couple rows of class, like when they come to check, man, it's going to be a problem.
And stories like that one were in abundance during our conversation together. As Aaron recalled, he didn't always see eye to eye with his former head coach, but that Coach Paterno sure did pave the way for him in his life.
For the type of man that he was and for how he carried himself and for, what he expected out of us, that's something that, still to this day I see reflections of in my life, lessons that I learned while they're under him.
Lessons that he still takes with him today, but have nothing to do with playing football. A career with much promise, including being the 11th overall pick in the 2009 NFL Draft, ended after just 5 short years.
Football has always meant a lot to me, but it's never been my whole life. I can be happier in my life right now than I ever was playing because I actually love everything about what I do.
You were how old there, roughly?
11.
11?
Yeah.
And Aaron does a lot. He's only 32, but is now a teacher, an activist, and professional artist. On this day, he was nice enough to show us around his Baltimore art studio.
I'm curious who Aaron Maben is. I mean, we know the former NFL player, former Nittany Lion, but I mean, teacher, author, artist. I'm missing a bunch here. Like, who is Aaron Maben?
A guy that wears a lot of hats, man. At the end of the day, I'm whatever I need to be on any given day at any given time. So sometimes I'm required to teach, sometimes I'm required to speak, sometimes I'm required to listen. But most of the time, anything that I do, you know, I'm serving.
I am smart.
And he's certainly done that, starting Project Mayhem 11 years ago, which provides help to underprivileged and at-risk youth so they can succeed. Also recently helping spearhead the Operation Heat campaign, which raised over $90,000 for schools in Baltimore that were struggling with heating issues. He currently teaches creative arts and literacy in the Baltimore public school system. Aaron's art activism workbook actually helps kids use art as a tool to empower them. And it's part of a curriculum currently being taught in 27 schools across the city.
Growing up trying to stand tall with the world's weight laying flat across your back. Oh, how great it must seem to be young, gifted, and black.
I mean, that's the reality that a lot of our students are living specifically. Some of my students are, you know, not even in 3rd or 4th grade, but they're in charge of getting 4 or 5 of their younger siblings to school every day. You know, when you're walking through the projects, you're walking through open air drug markets, you know, at the crack of dawn, you know, people get robbed, people get shot, people get stabbed. It happens every day.
We look around this room and, I mean, this is your outlet.
Absolutely. I want my art to really speak for what the experience of being a black man in this country in this day and age really represents.
Through the many hats he wears, Aaron Maben continues to give back to the community that raised him, inspiring a new generation in the process.
And I think that the currency that I have in my community is that, you know, people have seen me putting in the work for so long now that they know what I'm about. They know what I'm working towards, and they know, you know, my heart. You know, they know my commitment to, you know, this community and to the city.
In Baltimore, Casey Cantz for Nittany Nation.
All right, thanks, Casey. Coming up next, some rooms tell a story. This room tells a bunch of stories. That's next.
You're watching Nittany Nation Rewind.
Welcome back. How far is too far? If you're a Penn State fan, sometimes there's no such thing. Our guy, Devin Jackson, takes it from here.
I always wore Penn State even back in the 70s. Today, if I'm not at work, you'll find me in Penn State gear.
He has seen his fair share of Penn State games and translated that love for the blue and white into a room filled with memorabilia.
First item would have been the pins that we got from the banks. And I had a Penn State pennant in my room. As I got older and started doing things, more Penn State things, it started with the mini helmets, it started with the pictures and the autographs.
Curtains, autographed jerseys and pictures, themed pillows, and more fill David's Penn State themed room that is just 4 years old. It also features some of the old lockers from the old Lash building where his TV and many other items sit on.
I saw that when they were redoing the Lausch building, that they started putting the lockers up from the Lausch building on auction. She looked at me and she says, "Don't buy one." And being the good husband I am, I didn't buy one. I bought 2 because I thought these are going to make an amazing entertainment center.
And Dave's most prized possession is making Coach James Franklin a collage that he was able to personally deliver to him at an event back in 2015.
I got to meet him personally through Jordan Steffi at his foundation here in Lancaster, and I had printed up the collage picture that I have here in my room for him. So somewhere he has the same picture that I have here. Who you saw on the field is who you see when you talk to him one-on-one.
And that was Devin Jackson reporting. We just wanted to take a little time to give a shout out and my thanks to everyone who helped make this show possible. Running back Kajana Carter, Keith Goone, Conlon, the offensive lineman. Great stories from those guys. Neil Rudell, From the Altoona Mirror, Aaron Mabin and David Schink.
And we are not going to be thanking the poll voters who incorrectly put Nebraska as the national champion. So while we were thanking people, I am not thanking the poll voters. So
I mean, how many times did you run into that in I guess, the older years? Even in the BCS, you have so many problems, and you're still going to be arguing about who makes the fourth spot in the playoff. That's where we're at now. But it's a better
That's
system.
sports. We love to argue. So, hey, perfect season for that.
Whatever. It's never going to change. All right, that's our show, Nittany Nation Rewind. We'll catch up with you again next week.